Hey everyone, my name is Tennille Triplett, and I know it's a really weird name, sorry. And I'm doing my educational giant report on Ella Flagg. I just wanted to read you guys a quote from her. She said, "I believe in it. Equal suffrage for women. I have not been an active suffragist because I've kept so busily to my own line, but I realize that if it had not been for Susan B. Anthony and other women who are the pioneers in the women's cause, it wouldn't have been possible for me to teach in any more than the one room where I began." So as that as the backdrop, we're going to just take a look into her life and to the major contributions that she did for education and how we still feel her effect today. Ella Flagg Young was born on January 15th, 1845 in Buffalo, New York. She was very, very bright from her start. She loved learning, even though she didn't start school until the age of 10. And even though she started school at that age, she quit 2 months later due to her family told her that she wasn't going to be able to do it, and she didn't feel intellectually challenged. She felt that school wasn't challenging enough for her, so she dropped out. So as you can tell, she was very, very, very brilliant, very, very bright, very smart. She faced a lot of obstacles in her adolescence that pushed her to being the influential woman that we know of. I mean, I never knew who she was until I researched her, but I'm glad that I know now because she really did make a difference, at least in our field of teaching, and so we're really lucky that we had her. She, let's see here. Sorry, I've got notes over here, so I'm looking at my notes while I talk to the camera. And I'm using my phone, so it might be a little shaky. Sorry, guys. So she didn't stay in school for very long. But at the age of 15, she took a certification test to be a teacher. And she took the test, and she passed it with flying colors. She was really, really, really smart. But she was really young too, and so someone, I'm not really sure who, but people told her that she was too young and she wasn't going to be able to be a teacher. And so she decided to prove everyone wrong because her parents, her mom wasn't supportive of her, and her mom didn't believe that she could do it. So she knew right away that she wanted to work in the educational field. She was married, but she lost her husband at the age of 27. And when she lost her husband, she didn't have any other family members. Her siblings, her parents they were all dead. And so she was alone from the age of 27 on, which really, I think that's something that really pushed her into being so dedicated to education and so dedicated to women's rights. She was so dedicated and she worked so hard and she was so diligent because she was alone. And so she pushed all of those emotions into the educational field. So I really think that was one of the keys from being alone, that she decided to focus so heavily on education. Not only that, but she loved it. She had such a passion for education. She her determination and hard work led to many great things in education. She had a shaky start though. When she took her test, she was told she was too young to pursue a career in teaching, but that didn't stop her. So she decided to continue to try. Sorry, speaking too fast and stumbling over my words here. She continued to try to be a teacher. She graduated from the Chicago Normal School in 1862. And from there, she taught for a while before she became the principal of the new practice school of the Chicago Normal School. She did that for 6 years, and she was teaching primary school and whatnot. And then she went on to teach high school for 4 years. And after she taught in high school, she was a principal from 1875 to 1877. In 1877, she was appointed to assistant superintendent of Chicago schools. She climbed up the ladder. I mean, she went from a primary teacher to a high school teacher to a principal to an assistant up to the superintendent. She just steadily, like, climbed up the ladder or whatnot. And then from there, she went on to be the first woman superintendent. So that right there is huge. She was the first woman ever to be a superintendent, and that's really the main thing we think of when we think of Ella Flagg Young, is that she was the first. She was the first one to get into that position and everything. And this was just the tip of the iceberg in her career. In a good way, not in a bad way. So in 1895, she began studying part-time under John Dewey at the University of Chicago. And she resigned from being assistant superintendent in 1899. She was appointed professor of pediology at the University of Chicago. Then she went on to receive a PhD, which is really not heard of, especially back then, not heard of at all. So her receiving her PhD is awesome. But she did it when she was in her 50s, which is even more awesome. She dedicated her whole life to this. And by her 50s, she received her doctorate in education. When she was a professor, she wrote a dissertation called The Isolation in the School, and it was the first of 3 volumes that she wrote in a series named Contributions to Education. And that was one of her accomplishments, is that she wrote those 3 novels on a way how to, she wanted schools to be more democratic and to be more, or instead of having districts really control things, she wanted the school level to have more power. And this is really what she believed in. And in 1910, she was elected president of the National Education Association. This was a feat in itself, because she was a woman president in a sea of men. In a very men-dominated profession, she was the woman. Like, this was not very much heard of, and it was right around the time of the Women's Rights Act and everything that was going on. So she was a little bit ahead of that, but she was in the spurring of it, if you know what I mean. She resigned from being the superintendent in 1913, but was reappointed due to, there was much controversy, and there was a public protest by Jane Addams. She permanently resigned in 1915 due to a rocky relationship with the board members. Then she died 3 years later due to the influenza when she was 73. She really initiated a change in the way that Chicago schools were run. Jackie M. Blount said, "To ensure the quality and welfare of the system's teachers, Ella created school governing bodies in which all teachers and administrators discuss curriculum and logistical matters." She really tried to make the school more united, and she tried to give the schools greater power than the districts. And something that wasn't really heard of is that she also added sex hygiene programs, which were the first to be offered among schools anywhere. She was very passionate about women's rights, as the quote in the beginning, but she didn't, she wasn't like an active voice in it, because she was more focused on her education that she did. So she believed that women were equals with men, and she was an advocate for women's rights. I think that, if we didn't have her, we would still, it would have taken longer for women to be more prominent in the school system. And so we are really lucky as future teachers that we have her, and we have a great example where she continually worked up to being a superintendent, showing that women matter. And I think she's awesome, and I'm really glad that she was there. And that's it. Thanks, guys.